to a special edition of Productivity Vibes with Coach RD on Afro Vibes TV. Today is a special day because I have a special person on the show today, and I'm sure you are asking, who is this person? Right. In the city of Houston, Texas, there is a lady, powerful lady that I want to introduce to you. But before I go deeper, I want to introduce to you somebody who has been an attorney. She has been a city council member. She's been she contested for Senate. I remember she contested for Senate at the time, and then she's also contesting for something special. But I'm going to give you all the gist. But you know what? Let me introduce to you because she's going to do her introduction very well, and then I'm going to go deeper into that. A special person, Amanda Edwards. Woo!
Thank you
You're
for
welcome,
such a
Amanda.
warm welcome. Is it like this every time?
Yeah, we do that all the time.
All
Because
right.
it's productive vibes. That's the vibes for productivity.
Oh, well, I appreciate that,
So,
and I'm so thrilled to
Let
be here with you
our
today.
viewers know who we have in the studio today.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm so thrilled to be here on Productivity Vibes today. I'm Amanda Edwards, and as was already stated, I'm one of your former at-large Houston City Council members, but now running to be the next mayor of the city of
Woo!
Houston.
That's
So
it.
I'm thrilled to be in this pursuit. This is going to be the first time in 8 years where we're going to have an open seat. Mayor Turner is term limited and cannot run again. So someone else will have to lead the city on a going forward basis. And of course, I want it to be me. And the reason why is because I think our city is at a crossroads where we've got two choices we can make. One could involve us moving backward, but I have a feeling that your audience and everybody in this community will make a different choice, and that will be to move forward in a way that's bold and inclusive and creates a Houston where every single person, no matter what their background, has an opportunity not just to live here in Houston, but thrive here in Houston.
Awesome.
And that's what I think is going to matter most for people.
Awesome. I, mean, I know if I allow you, you go on and on and on and on. You can take over the whole time. But let's cut it into.
It's like we got time limits, y'all.
Well, you know that already. Okay, so the first thing is, you are as an attorney. You've also been a student. I mean, I saw your profile at Harvard. You've done some stuff with the council, and you've been everywhere. What are the productivity secrets that you know that you've learned like this? And anytime when you get back, when you go to become the mayor of Houston, you're going to reproduce that again. And what are your secrets of productivity?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be focused, right?
Focus.
You've got to be focused on pursuing whatever your dream is, have a clear vision for what that is. You've got to work hard at it. So there is no substitute for hard work and preparation. So you have to go after that with the hard work. And also, you've got to be resilient because sometimes you're going to get the words no, sometimes you're going to get a setback. And the question isn't whether or not you fell down, but how you picked yourself back up. And so if you have your clear vision for your future, it's bold and in line with your purpose. I think that's critical. But then work to go get it. I mean, that's going to be critical. And of course, know that there'll be bumps and bruises along the way, but you have to keep going.
Awesome. Focus. So I know you're contesting for the post of mayor of Houston. So the question people will ask me to ask you is why? What inspired you?
Yeah.
What brought you down?
Yeah, interestingly enough, I've gotten a lot of exposure doing city-based work. So prior to me even entering public service, I'm a native Houstonian first and foremost, born and raised here, went to public high school at Eisenhower. So I'm from Houston. And I love this city, but one of the things that struck me most happened to be when I was serving as a city council member. Now, I'd done a lot of work around the city before that. Before getting into public service, I was a municipal finance attorney at Vincent & Elkins and then at Bracewell, so in big law firms. But I'm transitioned into public service so that I could really create change in the community, make that real impact. And as a result, one of the things that really struck me while I was serving as one of the at-large city council members was when Harvey happened. And that, of course, was 51 inches of rainfall, $125 billion of damage. It was the second worst disaster in U.S. history. And when that happened, and I learned that so many of low-income senior citizens were not getting the help they needed. They were not removing the walls from their homes, even though they had been flooded.
Yeah.
That could be dangerous in terms of mold. I then organized hundreds of volunteers to start knocking on doors, going door to door. But one of the things that struck me most was when I'd step foot on those doorsteps, one of the first things they'd ask me is, "What are you doing here?" And I'd say, "Well, I'm your city councilor. I'm here to help," and I explain. But that wasn't really the question. They were asking me, "What are you doing here? Are you up for re-election already?" And so the first question that came to mind when they saw an elected official standing on their doorstep is that they must need something from me, as opposed to be here to make a deposit in their lives. And that's something that really struck me, because I believe that we've got to have a democracy that works for people, not just at the ballot booth, but also in terms of everybody getting the results that they deserve. Whether it's a disaster, whether it's competing for the future here in Houston. I'm very bullish about Houston, so I want us to win on all fronts. I don't want to hear anything about any other city.
Before you go further,
Okay.
there's something peculiar about Houston. I got here with my family and I got comfortable. And I saw many other races, many other countries coming to his America, and Houston is their first base.
Yes.
And then I did a research and I found out that the city of Houston has population of 45% Hispanic, 23% white, 22% black, 8% of Asian, and then they were saying that Houston is more it's a city that accommodates all races. What will you do now that Houston is getting bigger and stronger? The city is becoming, tighter. What is your productivity plan for the people of Houston?
I love that question. So first, I love this, what you're highlighting, which is the beautiful, diverse nature of our city.
Diversity, yeah.
We've got 142 languages spoken here. We're the most diverse city in the nation. But one day, as a city council member, I asked the question, what good is it to be the most diverse if we're not solving the challenges that our
comes
diverse
with
communities
it.
face? And I think we have the opportunity, given the raw ingredients, we've got the diversity, we can put a plan in place where we also pursue our capability of being one of the most equitable places as well, meaning outcomes for diverse communities. When we looked at small businesses, for example, small businesses owned by minorities, small businesses owned by women, small businesses owned by others, we found that there were big disparities in Houston as it related to the ability to scale your business, access capital, and of course the sales and receipts in terms of growth that they experience. And so I would love to focus on making those outcomes more equitable for people so that everybody doesn't just have an opportunity to live here in Houston, but I want them to thrive here in Houston. Awesome. And part of that is by making sure from an economic opportunity standpoint that they are front and center as far as how we move our city along. But I think that, one of the things that was really striking to me, Professor Kleinberg talked about, was that he talked about Houston being America's future. And I think we can be America's future, not just by our demographics, but also in terms of what we actually do and the impacts that we create.
Awesome. Now, one of the things that we found out about Houston is the home of energy industries. And then, in fact, they do have yearly conference of global, energy, oil and gas, here in, made here in Houston. So the question is, we have the ExxonMobil, we have the Chevron, we have all the top, oil and gas company here in Houston. Now, what is your vision for the workforce in Houston to be productive, and for the organization that comes in here to have an advantage of having the right people working with them? You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So it's two ways now. Organization coming in here, can they take advantage? Would they be happy always coming here? Why? Because they are right workforce. So what will you do to enhance the workforce productivity? Maybe that's the question, right?
Great question. Well, first of all, I think Houston now, as you've kind of hit on it, Houston is the energy capital of the world. And we've been the energy capital of the world of the past, the present, and I would venture to say the future. But one of the things you've got to keep in mind is that Houston has to compete to win the future. Part of winning the future involves us preparing our workforce for jobs of not just today, but jobs of tomorrow. One of the things I got a chance to work on as a city council member included the fact that I started the city's technology and innovation task force. And they said, well, Amanda, why are you doing that? We've got energy, we've got healthcare, we've got all of these other spaces. But what you have to realize is that when you look at Fortune 500 companies today, 50% of them were not Fortune 500 companies 50 years ago. So if you don't innovate, you don't evolve, you may not be here.
Awesome.
And so we've got to make sure our mainstay industries are here, and then our workforce are prepared for the jobs that will be here tomorrow. So when I worked on tech and worked on innovation, we were finding that Houston was not doing so well. In fact, we were at number 42 in venture capital investment at the time. Now we're doing great. We made recommendation strategies of things that we could do. If you've seen that old Sears building that's been converted into the Ion, that's one of the recommendations from our work. And so it's critical that you look at how to compete for the future. Having an innovation economy in addition to some of these other mainstay industries is critical to helping them stick around too. And so as you innovate, you're also attracting new talent, new people coming into the city, staying in the city. We want the Gen Zers. I know we'll be talking about that later, but we want the Gen Zers and other populations to want to be here because the opportunity for today and tomorrow is here. I'll close in saying we started that work back in 2016. We closed out last year. There had been $2 billion worth of venture capital investment. So you want to have an ability to compete for tomorrow, and we've got to make sure the workforce is prepared. That means we need more than decent schools. We need great schools. We need people also having various training opportunities. And so anything from a professional development standpoint that companies can be investing in to train up their workforce to be the leaders of tomorrow. That's critical.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Now, I got a data online and said the city of Houston covers over 669 square meters and have a population of 2.3 million people. I'm sure if it's more than that now. And making it the most populous city in Texas and the fourth largest in the United States, according to that data. So the question here is, what is your plan? Because as we are having more people that we need for school education, right? The need for market exchange of values where people can buy and interact, value adding and all that. What is your productivity strategy for jobs? Now, the more we have more people, the more we need more schools. The more we need to turn out more graduates or turn out more skillful, I don't want to give you the answers right to that. And then the more we now need to create more jobs to fill in those gaps. So what is your job creation strategy for Houston?
And I think I mentioned some of it, right? We want to look at growth industries and ways in which we can attract new opportunities to Houston. But we also know that we've got to have take care of some of the things that deter people from being here. So we know that some people don't choose to move to Houston because of schooling or because of crime or because of infrastructure or because of the price point on housing. So we've got to also focus on how do we make Houston a place where people not only want to work and play, but also want to live. And we would need to make sure that they want to live, work, and play in our community. That's critical. And then also continue to let people know that we're open for business. For example, as the mayor, things that I can do to help facilitate that. Fixed permitting. That's a big challenge for some of the businesses that find obstacles in their path. We've got to remove that so that people can focus on creating jobs, providing opportunities, and creating opportunity for the broader community.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm sure that our audience are asking questions. So if you want to send more questions, you can send it to our mail. And if you cannot answer right away, we're going to reply. Just put your email there. We'll send to her, and then she's going to. Anybody in Houston, or if you have anybody that is in Houston or who is looking forward to who will be the next mayor of Houston, then we have the right person here telling us about our idea. Finally, before we wrap up this session, before we go to pay bills, there are issues of security, public security, kidnapping here and there. And security issues. What is one strategy you have for security?
Yes, I think that all our communities deserve to be served and protected. Right now, we have fewer police officers today than what we had 20 years ago. And as a result, there are lots of public safety needs that exist. I think we need something called a community policing model where you have a presence in all of our neighborhoods, a very well trained law enforcement presence that becomes part of the neighborhood, becomes part of the community, goes to community events, knows the people, has the relationships. When you do that, not only do you cultivate more trust in terms of those particular individuals in that community being able to give you a tip,
I got
for
you.
example. They trust you now, but also you have a bigger emphasis on prevention. That's what we have to do. I want to make sure that we're not just focusing on solving crime. That's one piece of it. But the second piece we got to be focused on is preventing crime in the first place.
Yeah, before we get there.
That's right.
Awesome. All right. Hold your thoughts. Other things are still coming. Now, we're going to go on a short break to pay our bills. Then, when we are back, we'll be back with her asking more deeper questions. I'm sure you can't wait to listen to Amanda at that time. See you next. Welcome back to Productivity Vibes with Coach Audi. My name is Remy Dairo. I didn't tell you that before. I mean, you know that already. And then we have a special guest, Amanda Edwards, here. Now, Amanda, I want to ask you that because of the number of people that are, in Houston, so the city of Houston receives so much applications, so much things to be done, so much approval, so much this on the table, and then there's this bottleneck sometimes. Um, and we don't get things like this I used to get before. Probably when the number was not as much as we have. I mean, someone just sent that to me. Now, what will you do to streamline processes in the city center, right? When you become the mayor, so that there can be productivity, you know, in the city.
Absolutely. I think we have to look at the services that we provide to our residents more like customer service.
Yeah.
And we have to look at the residents as customers and clients, and how would you want them being treated? You would want clear and transparent information to be made available. You would want any wait times to be clear, and of course you certainly would not want a situation where people are experiencing frustration with efficiency. People are experiencing frustration with regard to results and outcomes. And so we have a 311 system. I would want to make sure that works appropriately, but also infuse more case management into the inquiries and the requests that come in through the city. For example, housing is a big issue that we work on at the city, or should be pushing forward in a more aggressive manner in terms of providing solutions for residents, as opposed to them feeling a little bit lost. And so those are some of the examples. I talked about permitting, that becoming a much more streamlined process. People have got to receive the type of quality of life that they're looking for and deserve.
Yeah.
And that's my job as the next mayor of Houston.
Awesome. Thank you. Now let's go to transportation. In Houston, Houston is known for big on transportation. I mean,
Yes.
because we know that we have two or three big airports in Houston,
Yes.
and then very functional, and they are, people travel over the world through that.
Yes.
And then when you now go to the city of Houston, sometimes there's traffic during traffic time, during the Platinum's closing time, or when people are going to work, or when you are even in downtown around a particular time, everywhere is blocked somehow. So there must be a solution. People are coming in. I mean, I don't know. What is your strategy for better flow transportation?
Yeah, interestingly enough, we anticipate about 4.2
Wow.
million people. Close your eyes and don't imagine that.
Ooh.
4.2 million people coming into our 8-county region in the next 20 years. Imagine that. We have got to be making very significant
How?
and substantial investments in our transportation infrastructure in order to be ready for that type of influx of growth. Right now, the city's growth, we want it to grow, but we have to make sure that we are properly managing that growth in order to compete for new businesses to come here, in order to
Yeah.
compete for people to want to live here, in order to compete for conferences and
Yeah.
conventions and things
Well,
like the
yeah.
Olympics. We
Yeah.
want that
Yeah.
here. So we've got to show and demonstrate that we have a keen ability to move people around this community. It's 650 square miles. That's a lot of terrain. And so that's a tough feat, but not one that can't be accomplished if we don't have the right leadership. And so that's what this is going to require, is a leader to come in and expend the political capital necessary in order to really forge the path forward that is really needed for our for our city of Houston to grow.
Awesome. Awesome. And when we talk about growth, we also talk about infrastructure growth.
Yes.
Especially when people are coming in, they want to find a place to stay, they want to find a place to walk, they want to find a place to hang. I mean, you see, we're putting pressure on the present infrastructure. What is your infrastructure goal for Houston?
Yes, we have to have multimodal transportation options. So I think no more are the days of just thinking about one way to transport people. That's not adequate. We've got to have multiple and differing ways to get people to and from where they need to go in terms of work, in terms of school, in terms of education, in terms of their home. We've got to make sure we're providing those connection points. And when you're thinking about transportation too, the first and last mile is important when you're talking about high capacity transit options like trains and such.
Yeah.
You've got to make sure that people, once they get off the bus or once they get off the train, that they're not just faced to walk through a field because there's no sidewalk or there are no lights in their to their next stop.
Yeah.
So that infrastructure is critical to keep people safe, but also to keep them connected
Connected.
to where they need to be. I'll also say infrastructure is critical from a flood mitigation standpoint. We have got to improve our infrastructure around flood mitigation and drainage in our city so that people can be safe in the process as well. So
Awesome.
all of those things I think go hand in hand. It's critical, top priority for me to make sure we're handling both as well.
What about accommodation? Accommodation, housing. We've not talked about that.
Yeah, so housing is a big challenge in our city. In fact, we do not have the supply of housing to match the needs of the people.
Yeah.
And it's not because we are land strapped or, like some other places that have run out of spaces to build. We have plenty of room, but we've got to have a strategic vision for what it is that we're trying to create, clear goals around that. And I think we can put more what we call workforce housing on the ground, which means that people who are working as teachers, people who are working as secretaries, people who are working in all kinds of fields don't have to necessarily just move several miles outside of the city in order to find a house that is affordable. We need to make housing affordable in Houston. We need to have housing of a variety of price points, and with a strategic vision, you can do so.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's go to health sector. And then I know we had COVID-19 really, ravaged the world, it shook everywhere in the world. But I think Houston, bounced back. And then, I mean, we're part of the city that, bounced back after that long, and today there's interaction in town, a lot of things are going on, business is back and all that. But what is your vision? What is your, we don't pray for pandemic to come. These are things that comes unexpected. What is your vision for unexpected, pandemic? I mean, I don't want to predict any evil coming, hurricane and all that. But I'm saying, what is your health plan or vision in case things like that happen, so we're not just thrown into darkness?
Yes, I mean, the county does a lot with Harris Health. Of course, the city and the county have to work together to keep residents safe. And so, what are the learnings and teachings from the pandemic that we should keep in mind when we're thinking about public health issues? Before the pandemic, I think many people, when you said the word public health or the words public health, they didn't even know what that meant.
About, yeah.
And so now that we have a real robust framework of how to mobilize and deploy things like vaccines and others, I think we need to keep these strategies so that when the next time, it's kind of like when a flood happens, right? You don't need to start from scratch each time.
yeah.
You know how and what to do. You just need to keep that in clear, keep that information clear and available when the time arises. Same thing in this case. Hopefully, we won't have some other pandemic or public health crisis, but you never know. So we've got to be ready for any sort of disasters, public health included.
Awesome. Now somebody just sent me something. They say, ask her, is she human being? Yes. And they don't want us to do politics. They want us to ask you, how do you relax as a human being?
How do
As
I relax?
Amanda.
I don't know how I relax. I
How
think
do you
sometimes I relax by, we go, I'm busy right now on the campaign trail, so we don't get a lot of downtime. But I enjoy my residence so much. So sometimes it's a little fun on the campaign trail. We're going to a couple festivals today. I enjoy that. I enjoy getting out with the community and really hearing from them, but also having fun with them. So sometimes it's a little dancing. Sometimes it's a little jump rope. Who knows? Whatever they want to get into, I'm down.
So let me now ask question. Has there been any time you have been down before? Because we always see you on the high side.
Yeah.
Amanda is always hoo, 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 hoo. Has there been any time Amanda has been human being by saying, "Oh, today I'm not"? Has there been anything like that? Has there happened to you in this time?
It is. I mentioned the story when I didn't get into the detail of it, but when I was listening and talking to those seniors who had their homes flooded, low-income seniors, and they would say to me, and I'd ask them, what are you doing to clean out your house? And they'd say, oh, I'm cleaning up, and this was after Harvey, of course. And I said, what are you doing about your furniture? Oh, my grandchild is going to help me with that. But when I'd ask them, what are you going to do about the walls in your home? And they'd say, well, what do you mean? They're already dry. And they would just say that to me. Broke my heart. And continued to break as I was learning that house after house after house, that was what they felt.
Wow.
And so I had no idea at the time how pervasive that was, how widespread that was. But I knew that I didn't get elected just to have a broken heart. I got elected to go do something.
To do the work, right?
Yeah. So it was, how did I convert that, sense of just, it's just troubling when you go in these spaces and places and you see the devastation that people are living in, and you get to leave, but they have to stay. And unless you do something about those circumstances, that is what their circumstances will continue to be. So I use moments like those as motivation to help people. But yeah, my heart is in that work. I know what the mold and mildew looks and smells like. I've been in so many of those homes. I still am talking to so many people 5.5 years later who still need our help and are not getting the help that they need. So yeah, do some of those things touch my heart in ways that certainly can bring you down? Sure, but you have to use those moments as motivation for why you're here in the first place.
Why.
And I'm not here for myself. I'm here to help people just like that, to be that person who doesn't take that moment in that house with that individual, with that senior citizen, and just keeps it in a vacuum, but uses it as motivation to help everybody.
See, Amanda is just telling us about her why, because your why is stronger than your what. If you have a stronger why, you can do the what later.
You're over here preaching.
So if I find anybody who can tell me the why, then I know that this person really understands. I'm sure I didn't ask her. She just told me her why now, and I'm so excited. Somebody said, let's talk about beauty. They said, you are beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
So you're beautiful. So what is your beauty strategy? Somebody was asking me, lady, so what do you do to your skin, to your face? I mean...
Wash my face.
Okay. tell
Well, interestingly
enough. How do you take care of yourself?
How do I take care of my skin? So my mother, actually, I don't do what my mother did, but she used to, obviously keep your face clean, everybody, clean face always. But she looked very young up until her passing. My mother did for a long, long time. And so some of it comes from her, but she used to steam her face. I don't do that. I don't do that, but she used to steam her face at home, and so that was her secret. Awesome. I don't really have a secret other than wash your face, put your moisturizer on your face,
And then you're good to go.
yeah. But I put on, I have makeup, but I don't try to overdo
one.
it. Don't do that because you don't want to suffocate your skin.
No, yeah.
So I didn't know we were doing beauty tips today, skincare and beauty tips.
Yeah. Awesome. So talking about leadership, because
Yes.
we've seen you leading. Okay, good. We've seen you have been part of different things, leading, either elected, either you volunteer or whatever. Where did you get that from? Your mom or from your dad? Where
But
did
the
you get
leadership, say that
Yeah,
again?
the leadership instinct.
You know,
leadership
that's an
skill.
interesting
Yeah.
question. You know, I will say
Oh,
I didn't get the
where did you get it
leadership instincts from my parents, but more or less it's just been something, the servant, the emphasis on servant
Servant.
leadership piece from my parents and my mom and my, and just seeing my family, my great uncles used to own a shoe shop in Fifth Ward, and they mentored all these young boys become shoe shine boys in the community. And so I wasn't an elected position, but it was this
Leadership.
notion. Yeah, it was. How do we make this community better? My mom was one of the first black graduates from her program at UTMB, and so she came back to the community so people could see her. You know, my uncles encouraged her to do that. Right, and so it's not always with something with a name placard or a swivel chair, but it's how do you feel, how do you use your life to help other people?
Awesome.
And so it's that type of approach,
Awesome.
I would say. I'm certainly I have a bigger mouth, so
I know,
so
right?
not that piece of
Yeah.
it, but it's the
Then you
piece
take it to
of
the next level.
the community,
Yeah.
the community,
Yeah.
and it's also a sense of responsibility. We have a responsibility, in my view, to be our brothers and sisters keepers. And regardless of what that looks like, for one person, it may look like public service, like me.
Yeah.
For other people, it might be like my mom coming in the neighborhood. She went back to Fifth Ward and worked so people could see that she came back to the community. It could be all kinds of different things. You know, you might have a barbershop, but you know that they're young people who need to understand how to open
Do
up their
things.
own
True.
shop. And so everybody finding their own niche and way to make the community better than it was before you found it.
Awesome. Finally, we got to go now. I feel like just going on and on, but you're giving me this at the back of the camera. Now I want you to look straight to the camera.
Yes.
And talk to our viewers why they should choose you
Yes.
rather than others who are contesting for the post or for the seat of the mayor of Houston. Over to you, to the camera.
All right. So, Houstonians, we've got an election on our hands, and here's, I think, what's critically important. Our city is currently at a crossroads where we have got to make a choice not to go backward, but instead to move forward. And I am the candidate in this race at this time that has the experience necessary that can tackle the complicated challenges we face, from crime and infrastructure, also our city's financial challenges, but also who has a bold vision for our future, a bold vision that allows us to compete to become America's future. And if you want a Houston that you can be excited about, a Houston where opportunity is abundant, a Houston where you can actually see yourself thriving, that's why you should select me to be the next mayor of the city of Houston.
Thank you. That was awesome. Thank you very much, everybody, for sitting down there listening to our great lady, a woman in the house, talking about productivity, about our vision for Houston, and about our special heart for the seat to serve the people. Once again, I want to say thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank
I appreciate
you.
your presence here today. We had a good time. I feel like we just continue again. But then we're going to invite you another time when the time comes for something else.
Okay.
All right. So thank you very much. Do have a wonderful day today. Bye.
Bye. All right, hi guys.
guys, welcome back. You're watching Productivity Vibes on Afro Vibes TV. I'm your co-host, Janae LeBlanc, licensed esthetician and Houston model. And today I am here with Amanda Edwards. For those of you who may not know, she is going to be our future mayor of Houston. And I'm going to let her just give you guys a brief description of who she is and where she's going.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm Amanda Edwards. I'm one of the former at-large city council members now running to be the next mayor of the city of Houston. And I couldn't be more thrilled. Our city is at a point in time where we need critical leadership with experience, but also someone who has a vision for the future of our city and will make sure that we compete to become America's future.
All right. So I want to know, when you talk to your younger self, what advice would you give to your younger self for the future?
Yeah, I think I was pretty good. I'd say keep going, girl.
Okay, so since you were so pretty good, what are the things that you were pretty good at? Like, what were your top 3 things that you were just so secure in?
Yeah, I would say, one of the things I was really focused, super focused when I was young. And so very disciplined. I kept my goals very crystal clear in front of me and really stayed focused on pursuing them. And so I didn't let setbacks deter me. I was pretty resilient growing up. When I was really young, my dad got sick with cancer and he passed away when I was a teenager. So resilience has been a long-standing part of my story, which is that if you get that setback, whatever it is, whether it's a personal issue or something professional or whatever it is, gotta keep going. You got to keep going. So I had that in me as a young person. I would say one of the things I was hard on myself.
Okay.
And so I had high expectations, but sometimes you think the world's going to end if something doesn't go the way you think it should go or that you'd hope it go. And, over time you learn that you figure it out and it'll work itself the way it's supposed to. But at the time you think, oh gosh, if this doesn't happen. So I would say probably having a little less worry, staying as focused and disciplined and working hard. All those things were good. But the worry piece, probably we could get rid of that.
Gotcha. I could understand, losing a parent because I too lost my dad and it's been 2 years now. So completely.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Everybody always stay focused, continue, and just, keep pushing.
That's right.
As a woman and a minority in Houston, how do you think, what makes your experiences different than your candidates that you're running against?
Yeah, it's one of those interesting, we bring a lot to the table. First of all, I'm from Houston originally, native Houstonian, born and raised. I went to public high school in Houston. I went to Eisenhower for my Mighty Eagles out there. But I also am someone who has a lot of experience for this job. And when I say that, when I graduated from high school, I went off to school, Emory and Harvard. I came back to Houston. I started practicing law as a municipal finance attorney. So in my practice, I was dealing with municipal finance issues and trying to help support community that way. I was really involved in the nonprofit space. And so my professional experiences, even before I got into public service, directly make me prepare for this role. And then I got into public service and started serving as one of the at-large Houston City Council members and did so much work to try to deal with issues of equity, deal with issues of creating growth in our city, and also to help our most vulnerable residents at the very same time. And as a result, I think that prepares me to be the type of mayor our city needs right now. We need a mayor that's going to be able to deal with some of the financial challenges the city is facing, but also a mayor who can deal with other challenges that impact quality of life, infrastructure, crime, things of that nature. But we need a mayor who's going to be bold and dreaming and for the future of Houston and pursuing that dream and executing on that dream. And one of the things I got a chance to do as a council member was start our city's technology and innovation task force, which has led to the creation of the new innovation district. So that's that old Sears building that's been converted into what they call the Ion now. That's part of that work.
All right. Well, Houston does face a lot of criticism for their education system. Where do you see the education system going for the future, not only for the kids, but the newer teachers that are coming in and the older teachers that are ready for retirement?
Yes, great question. I'm a product of public school here in Houston. I went to Eisenhower, as I mentioned, we have got to make sure that our schools are not failing our students and that we're not failing our schools. We've got to invest in our schools. We've got to make sure that the proper supports are there. I think that we should be looking at ways to help provide those wraparound services that they need, as opposed to just having the political back and forth that seems to exist today. We've got to be solutions oriented. How do we get outcomes driven? And for me, some of the time that you look at whether kids are succeeding or failing, you got to look at what's happening at home. Do they have a stable home life? Are we providing the wraparound services that they need? And if not, can we do that with some interesting partnerships? Can we bring some of the community together and do some public-private partnerships to provide extra supports, technology centers, just different ways in which we can help supplement some of what people and kids have access to in their communities so that they can be set up to be successful. We have to recognize that the city of Houston's future is tied to what's happening with its schools and vice versa. And so to the extent that our schools fail, our city fails. And to the extent our city fails, our schools are going to fail. And so we've got to make sure that we're putting our kids first. This is how we prepare for the future. This is how we compete for the future. And we want to make sure we are ready to compete to win the future. And it first starts with our schools and with education.
Yep. Just because myself, I don't have any kids yet, but I would love to have kids, in the future. And that's one of those things that I got to think about now. Like, do I want my kids in the public school system, or am I going to fork up the money to send them to private school? And then even if I do want to send them to private school, I got to think about my job. Can I even afford to send them?
Yes.
When those things aren't mixing.
Right. And with the current situation with this voucher system that's being proposed and so forth, with this TEA takeover, it's not enough money to send your kid to private school. So it's not even as though that's really the support that you're going to need. So where does that gap get filled? Who pays for that? We've got to do better in terms of having the supports for our students within the public school paradigm as well. I'm not suggesting that kids can't go to private school. I'm not suggesting that they can't go to any other school. It's just that every level where there's a kid, there should be a pathway to success, period.
Yes.
Like, that's it. Pathway to success. If a kid is allowed to enroll in a place, they should be able to be successful and seek their heart's desires.
Yes. So what message do you have for the youth, and not only the youth, the people that are going to be first-time voters? Like, what message do you have to them about anything?
Yeah, well, first of all, dream your boldest dreams. Whatever that is, I would say dream boldly. But then once you align and you figure out what your purpose is, what your passion is, and if you don't know it, be on pursuit of figuring that out. But once you do that, then work hard to go get it. You've got to work hard. As I mentioned, there is no substitute for hard work and preparation, so that when that opportunity does hit, you're ready immediately to take advantage of that moment. And so you've got to work hard, you got to pursue it, and as I mentioned, you got to be resilient. There are going to be bumps and bruises along the way. There are going to be no's, there are going to be rejections, and if you fall over and play dead when that happens instead of getting back up, you might just miss what you're destined to do and be in this world. So understand the importance of hard work, understand don't give up on your vision and goal, but you got to work for it. And then if you fall or get set back, get back up and keep going.
All right. Well, I want to say thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate you for speaking to the younger generation out there.
Of course.
And I just want to say, everybody, pursue your goals, pursue your dreams, and get out there and vote.
Oh, make sure you vote. This is a November 7th, 2023 election. I'm
Get out
all
there.
giving them Oprah speeches. And you got to get out and vote, y'all. This is one of the lowest voter turnouts in the country. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so we have 2.2 million people in the city of Houston. Only 250,000 people vote for mayor. So be part of that solution. Don't complain about what's happening at City Hall or who doesn't represent you. Go pick the person that you think represents you best. Go support that candidate and then go vote. Now, the election is going to be unusual. So this time around, there is no primary. It's a nonpartisan general election. Most people don't vote because they don't even know when the election is. They don't know that this is a nonpartisan general election. So that means no D's, no R's, no Republicans, no Democrats, none of that. It's just a list of names. You pick one. that you think best represents you, and that's how you vote in this election cycle on November 7th, 2023. People think it's in 2024. It is not.
This year.
2023.
Alrighty then. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.